Is AARTO effective in holding motorists accountable for traffic violations? Is the AARTO system failing? What makes a traffic fine legal or illegal? How much revenue are metros likely to lose because of the AARTO bungle? What time is it? This is question time. My name is Mpho Tsedu and I'm your host for the show. It has been reported that about 2.4 million traffic fines issued by the Johannesburg Metro Police before the end of June may not be paid due to a legal technicality. This, according to a report by the National Department of Transport, relates to the fines that were issued outside the prescription period stipulated in the Administrative Adjudication of Road Offences, otherwise known as AARTO Act. Metros stand to lose millions of rand in revenue. My guest is Howard Dembovsky, chairman of the Justice Project of South Africa. And on the line, we were expecting to be joined by Wayne Minnaar, the spokesperson of the Johannesburg Metro Police, if he will come through. But for now, my guest is Howard. Howard, welcome to the show. The report that was tabled by the Department of Transport didn't paint a very good picture in as far as the AARTO system is concerned. You had a lot to say.
Absolutely. The fact is that AARTO is failing blindly to address the issues of people committing road traffic infringements. And there are a number of reasons that it is, and we'll go into that a little bit later. But I think we must hasten to add that the Criminal Procedure Act is not much better with dealing with traffic fines because of the fact that it has even less stringent requirements that are required in terms of the Criminal Procedure Act, and therefore to blindly go ahead and say, well, AARTO is a mess, we must have it repealed, etc., as has been called for by a number of parties and individuals. I don't think that's a particularly good idea. I think what we need to be doing is fixing what is wrong and proceeding.
Okay, just hold that thought there, Howard. I think we do not as yet have Wayne Minnaar, but we certainly will try our best to get in touch with him. But now, Howard, there's this allegation or report that this is as a result of some postal bungling. What exactly happens here?
Well, I think in order to understand what postal bungles would be in terms of how it's been related in the article and in the report, one needs to understand the processes that are to be followed under AARTO. And first off, a traffic infringement starts out with an infringement notice that has to be sent to the alleged infringer within 40 days of the alleged commission of the offence. Now, not only does it have to be sent to that infringer, but it has to be served on that infringer. So in other words, they need to sign for it. The AARTO Act, Section 30, subsection 1 of the AARTO Act, states that infringement notices must be sent by registered mail if they are not served in person. And served in person is obviously when a traffic officer stops an offender at the time and issues them with a citation. Now, unfortunately, for 2.5 years, from the 1st of June 2010 until the 22nd of December 2012, the JMPD decided that that provision didn't actually apply to them. And some of the excuses used were things like, yes, the AARTO Act states that we must serve it by registered mail, but it doesn't specifically prohibit us from sending it by ordinary mail. Quite frankly, that argument is probably one of the dumbest arguments I've ever heard, because it's unreasonable to think that any act of Parliament is going to contemplate all the ways that you're going to try and get around it. Now, what happened is, since they were forced to send these infringement notices out via registered mail, which in fact resulted from a parliamentary question that was posed to the then Minister of Transport, Mr. Ben Martins, where he actually said that those infringement notices that were sent out by ordinary mail were null, void, and illegal. The fact is that since they've been forced to send them out via registered mail, those infringement notices have not proceeded to the next steps in the AARTO Act. And the AARTO Act prescribes that if you do not pay within 32 days, then a courtesy letter must be issued, And that courtesy letter must also be sent by registered mail.
Now, does it mean that all those fines that were issued indeed before June are now null and void? Are the people who were issued with those fines now going scot-free?
We are confusing timelines here. 1st of June 2010 to the 22nd of December 2012. Okay. The 1st of June 2013 relates to something else, and that was the next point I was coming to with respect to courtesy letters and enforcement orders. Because if you do not pay a courtesy letter that's been served on you via registered mail within 32 days, then an enforcement order gets issued. And that enforcement order has the effect of blocking all transactions on the e-Natus vehicle registry. Now that in itself is a very strong motivation for infringers to pay, if you actually think about it, because they can't get their license disc, they can't renew their driving license, etc., etc. But that didn't happen. And why didn't it happen? Well, let's see. Since the JMPD actually started implementing AARTO, which was actually on the 1st of November 2008, for the first couple of months, first 3-4 months, they didn't issue AARTO infringement notices. They sent out illegal notices. And at that time, the then CEO of the RTMC and the then acting chief of the JMPD got together, and after we made representations to them, they withdrew all of those traffic fines. That was 34 million rands worth of traffic fines, and they ordered that they must be refunded to motorists. But what did the JMPD do? Instead of complying with the AARTO Act, wherein monies collected with respect to penalties that are paid are supposed to be paid over to the Road Traffic Infringement Agency, they put their own banking details on all of the infringement notices, the JMPD, and they pocketed all the money, regardless of what stage under AARTO it was. And there were no courtesy letters issued. They just took away the 50% discount.
Howard, is your organization saying that people must not pay traffic fines?
Definitely not.
What are you saying? Because it doesn't seem to me that there's anything which you're saying motorists must pay for.
We're going to get to that now.
Okay.
The fact is that there are prescribed processes that need to be followed in terms of the Act. And the fact is that all authorities actually have a duty under the Constitution to act within the framework of the law. Let's be very frank about that. If we have law enforcement agencies disregarding the law and making up their own provisions, that doesn't bode very well for the way that we are proceeding in this country. Let's be very frank about this. All the JMPD had to do with respect to the infringement notices that they issued from day one was to comply with the provisions of the Act. Had they have done so, had they paid the monies over to the road traffic infringement agencies that was actually due to the RTIA, then the RTIA would not have been left in a situation where from the 22nd of December 2012 onwards, it didn't actually have money to pay for the issue of courtesy letters to be sent out via registered mail, because in the first month, their obligation would have been about 7.5 million rand. In the second month, it would have been close to double that. And in the third month, it would be close to triple that. And the reason is that there are different processes and compound effects that happen here. The RTIA has a budget of 25 million rand a year. All the rest of the money is supposed to have come from the payment of infringement notices.
Okay, just all that thought there. We're going to take a quick break now, but don't go away. Question time returns.
Holocaust Diaries Anne Frank was one of over 1 million Jewish children who died in the Holocaust. She was born Anneliese Marie Frank on June 12, 1929 in Frankfurt, Germany to Otto and Edith Frank. Anne and her family went into hiding on August 4, 1944. The Gestapo, German secret state police, discovered their hiding place after being tipped off by an anonymous Dutch caller. On September 3, 1944, Anne, along with her mother Edith, her sister Margaret, and her father Otto, boarded the last transport from Winterborg to Auschwitz-Birkenau. The transport arrived in Auschwitz on September 5, 1944, with over 1,000 Jews on board. While in hiding, Anne kept a diary in which she recorded her fears, hopes, and experiences. The diary was found in a secret apartment after her family was arrested. It was kept for Anne by Miss Gies, one of the people who had helped hide the Franks. The diary was published after the war in many languages, and it is used in thousands of middle school and high school curricula in Europe and in America.
Welcome back. You're still watching Question Time. Like I said earlier, one of our guests whom we were expecting to have in the show was Wayne Minnaar, the spokesperson of the Johannesburg Metro Department. However, Wayne, when he was called, he says the document in the media was not compiled by JMPD, so he therefore declines to comment on it. So we had, in fact, invited the Johannesburg Metro Police Department. However, they refused or declined to take part in the program. My guest for now in studio is the chairman of the Justice Project South Africa, Howard Dembovsky. Howard, now that the Metro Department has refused to participate, do you have any idea why they wouldn't want to participate in the program?
Well, I don't think that the JMPD would like to send any representative onto public television to admit that the JMPD has acted in a manner that organized criminals would be acting.
But they have not been proven to be...
The fact is, okay, that there is no doubt about it. Okay. Yes, they have not been proven. Okay. However, if you'd like proof, bring me a tablet PC and I will show you how the infringement notices from the 1st of June 2010 to the 22nd of December 2012 do not appear on the National Contraventions Register. That, to my mind, is proof enough that the RTIA, the Road Traffic Infringement Agency, is not aware of one single infringement notice issued by the JMPD outside of the ones that people have contacted them directly about to query and say, what gives? This doesn't appear on the National Contraventions Register, but I've got a fine for it.
Now, tell me, what type of a scenario would you like to see? Because I can hear you're complaining throughout. But what do you want to see?
Well, first off, we need to make sure that the AARTO Act is complied both by all concerned, all parties concerned. First off, I think that the National Department of Transport and Cabinet itself needs to take cognizance of the fact that the Road Traffic Infringement Agency cannot function unless it has budget to do so. It's very simple. You cannot pull postage costs out of thin air. Once they have got it going, trust me, the fact is that infringement notices will follow to courtesy letters, will follow to enforcement orders. And the reason I say that is not because I'm just making this stuff up. The fact is that during the early days of the implementation of AARTO, with respect to infringement notices that were issued by the Tshwane Metro Police Department, they all followed those processes. And the fact is that the JMPDs have never. And this is the big problem that we face here. What I would like to see is I would like to see the AARTO Act itself getting fixed, because there are a number of deficiencies in the Act that need to be sorted out. And I would like to see the agencies involved get serious about this and stop bickering about the core value here. And that core value is that they are saying that municipalities are going to lose money. Well, with all due respect to everybody concerned, are traffic fines actually supposed to adjust the behavior of motorists who refuse to obey the law, or are they supposed to be there to drive huge budgets?
But Howard, are you aware of the amount of money we're talking about?
Yes,
here?
I'm acutely aware. 2.068 billion rands worth of infringement notices issued in a 2-year period.
Now, if that amount is not paid, that is certainly a setback to any department.
Okay, yes, I agree with you to an extent, except I need to point you to the Constitution, which says a person is innocent until proven guilty, not guilty until proven innocent. Let's get things into perspective here. Just because you get sent a traffic fine doesn't mean that you have to pay it, because I can show you numerous examples of trailers in photographs where the vehicle concerned, which is a BMW 325i, is receiving a fine. Let's be honest about it. It's an accusation of wrongdoing. I'm not for 1 second saying that a person who has committed a traffic infringement should be allowed to get away with it. In fact, I'm saying the exact opposite. They should be held accountable. And the only way that they're going to be held accountable is for our authorities to abide by the prescripts of the Act.
Now, what happens to somebody who has been stopped at a roadblock on a Sunday afternoon with his kids or the family, and they are told you have an outstanding warrant? They are then taken to Johannesburg Central Police Station, where they are locked up. What do you say to that?
I'm going to throw that straight back at you and say that usually happens on a Friday afternoon, not a Sunday. But in any case, let's remember that the Administrative Adjudication of Road Traffic Offences Act does not have warrants of arrest. Okay, the Criminal Procedure Act does. And this is why I'm saying that the Criminal Procedure Act is not better than the AARTO Act in dealing with these matters. Because the fact is, warrants of arrest do get issued. And they get issued because, once again, we have situations where, yes, some people will ignore a summons under the Criminal Procedure Act. Some people will just do that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's face it. But in a lot of cases, the summonses that are issued in terms of Section 54 of the Criminal Procedure Act are not actually served correctly.
So what happens if I'm stopped at that roadblock and they want to lock me up? Do I have reasons or rights to protest?
If you are in Johannesburg or Tshwane and you don't venture outside of those areas, you most certainly do, because there is no warrant of arrest under the AARTO Act. So if they even so much as suggest it, and they take you and put you in the back of a van, let's understand something. Arrest does not start when you get locked in a police cell. Arrest starts the second that they deprive you of your freedom of movement. So therefore, when the JMPD, not if, when the JMPD tells you, you've got an outstanding fine, if you don't pay, I'm going to lock you up, that is nonsense. That is actually extortion, and it's the kind of behavior I would expect crime syndicates to get involved in, not a law enforcement agency. But here's our problem.
No, but there's something that you really need to just tell me in simple language. Do I have a right to protest that type of...
Which I've just told you most certainly do. You have not only a right to protest it, but if they proceed, you have a right to institute civil litigation against them for unlawful arrest.
Now, they normally give you a warrant. Where does it come from? If they don't have it on the spot, they say wait, they go to some court, whether Johannesburg court or whatever court, they bring back a warrant of arrest and they lock you up.
That's an entirely different story. If there's a warrant of arrest, it has not come from the jurisdiction of the Joburg Metro Police Department or the Tshwane Metro Police Department. Trust me, unless, of course, that warrant of arrest is now more than 5 years old. Okay, because let's remember that the AARTO Act came into being on the 1st of July 2008 in the jurisdiction of the Tshwane Metro Police Department, and on the 1st of November 2008 in the jurisdiction of the Johannesburg Metro Police Department.
Okay. We're going to take a quick break. When we return, we'll continue our conversation. Please don't go away. Question Time returns shortly.
SABC News plays a critical role in providing unbiased and reliable news. We have a well-established reputation of uncovering, reporting and delivering news. A significant growth in popularity of our news demonstrates the demand for our news content. We continue to provide unrivaled coverage of vital events in and out of the country. Wherever the news is happening, we'll be there to bring them to you at the right time. No one has the news covered like SABC News. We lead and they follow. SABC News, Africa's news leader.
Welcome back. You're still watching Question Time. We had invited a representative, and in particular, Mr. Wayne Minnaar, who then sent us a message, or rather responded on record here, that the document that we're discussing in the media was not compiled by JMPD, so he declines to comment on it. So as a result, my guest is chairman of the Justice Project South Africa, Howard Dembovsky. Howard, there's just one point here which I would like you to clarify, if you would. The process from the point at which that camera clicks that I'm driving above the speed limit until the point when I have to receive that fine. What happens in that period? And the police, the Metro Police are saying they spend quite a lot of money as well to dispatch those letters.
Okay, yes, the process works thus. They dispatch the speed cameras to the various sites that have been approved by the Director of Public Prosecutions for camera speed trapping. They then capture all of these infringements on this electronic equipment, which is speed measuring equipment, which they then take back to their contractors' offices, and they pull the data off those things along with the photographs. They capture those details onto a pre-infringement notice, if you like. It is supposed to go through an adjudication process, but unfortunately I fail to believe that a traffic officer wouldn't know the difference between a trailer and a sedan. But let's say that they do. Once that has happened, the contractor then captures the infringement notice onto the National Contraventions Register, which operates off the eNatus database. And that infringement notice is then electronically dispatched to the post office. It goes through something called hybrid mail, which is similar to registered mail because it is a recorded means of delivery. The South African Post Office then dispatches that also electronically to the various post offices where the infringement notices are, not the infringement notices, the notification to collect them are actually printed out and put into people's post boxes, sent out with postmen, etc., etc. You get this thing and it tells you an important letter is awaiting delivery. It's sad that it does that because at one stage it said an AARTO infringement notice. And then you are expected to go and collect that from the post office. The second you sign for it, it is served. And from that time onwards, a discount period of 32 days is supposed to apply with respect to the penalty amount that you are expected to pay. So if the fine is for 250 Rand because you were 11 k's an hour over the speed limit, then you will be expected to pay 125 Rand within that first 32 days. If you don't pay it or take one of the other options available to you, which are making representation, nominating the driver if you weren't indeed the driver, electing to be tried in court, or applying to pay in installments, then a courtesy letter is supposed to be issued. And that's where we're falling down.
Now, what is the purpose of these cameras that record speed infringements? Because people are hiding behind trees, and sometimes they even actually go beyond your imagination to try and conceal themselves so that they can catch you, if I may use the phrase. What is the purpose of traffic officers? Is it supposed to be to ensure that you do not drive, visible policing that is, you do not drive above the speed limit, or to issue fines.
And I'm going to throw a third dynamic into this. Is the purpose not supposed to be to make or create safer roads for us all to be on? The fact is, you've got that question, what is the purpose? The purpose is to make money, plain and simple. I don't think that anybody can come forward and argue to me successfully that traffic officers hiding behind pillars on the freeway, hiding in bushes, setting out unmanned speed cameras and parking 200 meters away from them to make sure that they don't get stolen, because you see, unfortunately, what we've done is we've created traffic officers and turned them into night watchmen because they're now watching unattended speed cameras as well. The fact is, it's to make money and nothing more. We, as the South African public, really need to start demanding a lot more of our traffic authorities. And let me tell you why I say this. If you have a look at the methodologies employed by other traffic departments, including Tshwane Metro Police Department, outside of Johannesburg's area, the mix of physical enforcement and electronic camera enforcement is around about 20% camera enforcement, 80% physical. It was revealed in 2009 that 98.94% of all infringement notices issued by the JMPD are for camera speeding fines. Since that time, that quantum has not changed by going down, it's changed by going up. It is now sitting probably, and this is a guesstimate, at between 99.5% and 99.7% of all traffic infringement notices issued by the JMPD. They are interested in one thing and one thing only, and that is making revenue. And this kind of nonsense has got to stop. At the end of the day, let me ask one very, very simple question. Your child is crossing the road, and a motorist is coming down that road which has a 60 km/h speed limit at 120 km an hour. Do you want him to get a fine in the post, or do you want him to be stopped there and then and prevented from crashing into your family? And there is only one reasonable answer to that, so it's a rhetorical question. But the fact is, we've got to start focusing on physical speed enforcement. Speed is a big problem, there's no doubt about it.
Sure.
But we've got to stop people from speeding, not give them a pay-as-you-go system as we're trying to create here.
But wouldn't people stop speeding because they are fined?
Well, obviously not. Somewhere in the region of 12.1% of people pay infringement notices. What motivation do they have to stop speeding? I'll tell you what will start to have an effect on the behavior of motorists on our roads. And I know because people ask me this question almost every day of my life. They come to me and say, when is the points demerit system coming into play? When can I lose my driving license? Okay. At the stage that we bring in a points demerit system and it works, and we start withdrawing people's driving licenses, trust me, people are going to start behaving themselves.
Do you support that type of a measure?
150%. We do. But there needs to be a transformation in traffic enforcement in South Africa, because, let me give you another scenario here. A camera goes happy-snappy of the back of your motor vehicle, capturing what the make and model of that vehicle and the number plate of that vehicle. But it doesn't identify you as the driver at all. It doesn't identify who is behind that steering wheel. So, in fact, under AARTO, as it stands now, and under all points demerit systems, you have the opportunity to nominate the driver. What stops you from nominating somebody else who you've gone and got to get a driving license, okay, so that they incur the demerit points on their driving license? Nothing's to stop you, Mabru.
Howard Dembovsky. Thank you very much. That was question time for today. A big thank you to my guest. And of course, let me remind you that Wayne Minnaar, the spokesperson for the JMPD, was invited and he declined, saying the document in the media was not compiled by them. Therefore, they will not take part. We welcome your feedback via email questiontime@sabc.co.za, or you can tweet us on our Twitter handle @questiontime24. From me and the rest of the crew, have yourself a wonderful time. Goodbye.